What if I told you that one of the most damaging moments in the royal family's recent history didn't happen on a global stage, wasn't witnessed by hundreds of flashing cameras, and had nothing to do with a death, divorce, or even a royal departure? What if it all came down to a child's dress? A tiny, handmade Givenchy bridesmaid dress, hemmed too short, too snug, not quite right. A silent child's tears in a palace fitting room. A seamstress on her knees, stitching under pressure. A duchess with nerves stretched like a thread about to snap. Another duchess, watching closely, too closely. And then a slap. Swift. Unscripted. Unforgivable. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. They thought no one saw it. But someone did. And she was filming. You think you know the story. The rumors of tension between Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton on the eve of Meghan's 2018 wedding to Prince Harry have floated in and out of tabloids for years. Depending on who you asked, Meghan made Kate cry, or Kate made Meghan cry. Kensington Palace always denied the more scandalous versions. Harry and Meghan spun their own tale on Oprah's couch, tears and all. And the public? Well, they took sides, debated it on Twitter, and eventually moved on. Until now. Because what was once dismissed as gossip has now re-emerged in a very real, very disturbing way. A leaked clip, allegedly captured by a former royal nanny who'd served the household for years, has landed in the hands of someone outside the palace's control. A clip that reportedly shows Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, slapping a Givenchy staffer across the face because of a dress. A dress that Kate Middleton had quietly ordered to be altered, without Meghan's knowledge. Let that sink in. This isn't some blurry photo. This isn't secondhand gossip from a palace source. This is alleged video, captured in real time. A behind-the-scenes confrontation from a wedding that millions celebrated, but only a handful truly understood. And it's about to blow the lid off a royal cover-up that's been stitched together with silence and smoothed over by royal protocol, until now. But why does this story still matter, years after Meghan and Harry's dramatic exit from royal life? Why is a decades-old dress alteration making headlines again? Why is a single slap more dangerous than any televised interview? And who is this mysterious nanny who dared to hit record when the palace demanded silence? You're about to find out. This expose will pull back the satin curtain on one of the most emotionally charged, deeply personal moments in the royal saga. One that reverberated from the Givenchy workroom all the way to the Queen's private study. We'll walk you through the scene that played out inside the fitting room, the tears, the tension, the slap, and uncover the shocking consequences that followed. But more importantly, we'll explore what this moment represents, a power struggle, a rivalry, a breakdown of trust between two royal households. Because make no mistake, this was never just about fabric. It was about control, respect, ego, and the invisible lines drawn between Kate Middleton's royal blood and Meghan Markle's Hollywood ambitions. And in the middle of it all, a little girl named Charlotte, whose only crime was being too young to understand that the dress she wore would one day symbolize a royal rupture felt around the world. Now, before we dive deep into the chapters ahead, there's something you need to understand. There's a reason this story was buried. There's a reason the footage, if verified, was hidden. The palace doesn't like mess. It doesn't like emotion. And it certainly doesn't like staffers who speak, especially not the ones with receipts. But some things refuse to stay hidden. Some stories claw their way back to the surface. And when they do, they bring chaos with them. Because this story, it never really ended. It was stitched into silence. Until now. So how did we get here? Let's rewind to the days before the royal wedding. The moment Meghan Markle transformed from American actress to Duchess of Sussex. It was supposed to be a fairy tale. A biracial American woman breaking royal barriers, bringing modernity to the monarchy. But behind the smiles and the balcony waves, tensions were boiling over. Sources close to Kensington Palace have claimed that the wedding planning process had become a minefield. Staff were walking on eggshells. Designers were under extreme pressure. And relationships, particularly between Meghan and Kate, were deteriorating fast. The Givenchy team, led by Claire Waite-Keller, was reportedly tasked with managing the impossible, turning vision into reality, under the gaze of two very different women with two very different ideas of perfection. And at the center of it all, a dress for a 3-year-old. Charlotte was meant to be one of Meghan's bridesmaids, a sweet symbol of family unity. But Meghan reportedly wanted a sleek, minimalistic, runway-style look for the girls. No frills, no fuss. Kate, ever the traditionalist and protector of her daughter, allegedly had concerns. She felt the design wasn't comfortable enough. Too tight. Too edgy. Too Meghan. So Kate did what any protective mother might do. She requested a quiet alteration. Nothing big. Just a slight adjustment to ease Charlotte's discomfort. But Meghan wasn't informed. And when she found out, when she saw what had been done without her approval, she exploded. Now, according to the nanny's leaked notes, the room fell into chaos. The seamstress, a young French woman named Elise, was on her knees adjusting the hem when Meghan stormed in. Kate stood back, calm but firm. The staff looked away, and Meghan's voice reportedly rose like a whip crack. "What are you doing?" she allegedly shouted. Elise tried to explain. "Her Royal Highness asked me." And then, the slap. Open palm. Fast. Across the cheek. The room froze. Charlotte cried. Kate turned white. The seamstress stumbled back, hand on her face. Meghan, breathing hard, didn't apologize. Instead, she reportedly said, "Don't touch my vision. Ever." We'll unpack that moment in full detail later. But that quote, if true, is as chilling as the act itself. Because it reveals everything. The control, the fear, the absolute refusal to compromise, even for a child, even for her soon-to-be niece. It's the kind of moment that doesn't just damage relationships. It defines them. But the real twist? Someone captured it. A royal nanny, assigned to watch over the children, had her phone tucked behind a pile of gowns. She never intended to film anything. But as the tension escalated, she pressed record. Out of instinct. Out of fear. Out of duty. That footage, now leaked, partially redacted, and circulating in elite media circles, is what's reigniting this story. And in the chapters to come, we'll reveal what the footage shows, what it doesn't, and why the palace's attempt to suppress it is unraveling by the day. You'll hear from seamstresses, stylists, insiders, even someone from the Givenchy house who remained silent until now. Because while Meghan may have left the monarchy behind, the monarchy never left this story behind. And as for Charlotte, she may never remember every detail of that day, but millions will. And the dress she wore. The one altered behind closed doors, stitched in silence, stained by scandal, has become something more than a garment. It's become a symbol of power, of pride, of the price of defiance. And for Meghan Markle, it may be the one thing she'll never be able to outrun. But what happened in the moments after the slap, what the nanny saw when Meghan realized what she'd done, that's where the Royal story begins. And it's coming next. What really happened after the slap? Did Meghan apologize? Did anyone speak? Did Charlotte stop crying? Or did silence speak louder than anything else in that room? The royal nanny's footage cuts off right after the strike. A blur. A jolt of movement. A faint gasp from someone in the background. The video ends abruptly, but the aftermath was far from over. Because that slap didn't just sting the cheek of a young seamstress. It reverberated through royal walls, rattled protocols, and triggered one of the most explosive breakdowns in modern royal history. And it all started with a dress. A dress designed for innocence, but tailored in tension. Let's rewind the clock. Weeks before the wedding, the mood inside the palace was one of barely concealed panic. Everyone, from the planners to the stylists to the florists, knew this wedding had to be perfect. Not just because it was royal, not just because it was historic, but because, deep down, everyone could feel the fault lines already forming beneath the surface. There was unease, an unspoken rivalry between the future queen consort and the American actress turned duchess-to-be. On paper, they smiled for the cameras. But behind the scenes, competing visions, clashing personalities, and two very different definitions of what royal should mean. And that's where the bridesmaid dresses became ground zero. Charlotte's dress wasn't just any dress. It was a couture Givenchy piece, designed under the meticulous eye of Claire Waite-Keller, the first female artistic director of the legendary fashion house. Meghan had chosen Claire because she wanted her wedding to be more than just royal. She wanted it to make a statement. Feminist, bold, non-traditional. The adult design for Meghan's own gown was stark, architectural, clean. And she wanted the bridesmaid dresses to reflect that same minimalism. No lace, no frills, no volume. Just structure. Sharpness. High fashion on tiny bodies. But Charlotte was 3. She was fidgety, shy, sensitive to fabric. The original dress was stunning, no question. White silk, a structured waistline, and a hem that just barely skimmed the knees. Meghan had requested no tights. She wanted bare legs for all the girls to mirror a sleek editorial look. A vision straight out of a Vogue spread. But the moment Charlotte tried it on, the problems began. She scratched at the fabric, pulled at the waist, winced when she walked. Kate noticed. Instantly. To Kate, it wasn't just about aesthetics. It was about her daughter's comfort and dignity. She wanted Charlotte to feel happy on the day, confident, unbothered by a tight fit or prickly seam. So she took action. Without informing Meghan, Kate reportedly summoned a Givenchy assistant the next morning and asked, politely but firmly, if the dresses could be adjusted slightly. A softer seam, a bit more length, and lace-lined underlayers to keep the girls from chafing. From Kate's perspective, it was a harmless motherly instinct. A practical fix. Something that would never even make it past the workroom doors. But it did, because someone talked. Word reached Meghan within hours. And according to multiple insiders, including one royal aide who spoke on deep background, that moment was the true beginning of the war. She felt undermined, the aide said. Meghan had spent weeks finalizing every detail. She viewed it as her day, her moment. Any adjustment without her consent was, in her mind, sabotage. The temperature inside the palace rose quickly. Meghan allegedly confronted Kate with a blunt question. Why didn't you come to me? Kate, ever measured, reportedly responded, I didn't want to upset you. But that was exactly what happened. Upset turned to fury. Fury turned to coldness. And that coldness infected everything. Meetings, rehearsals, family gatherings. The bridesmaid dresses had become symbolic of something much deeper. Power, respect, boundaries. And then came the fitting. Held at the palace just days before the wedding. It was meant to be a simple final try-on. The Givenchy team had returned with adjusted dresses, following Kate's guidance. Charlotte's was a perfect fit. Longer hem, lace softener sewn in. No more scratching, no more tears. But no one had warned Meghan. When she walked in and saw the seamstress working, Elise, the young French assistant kneeling beside Charlotte, something snapped. We covered the slap. But let's talk about what led to it, the seconds before the footage began. According to the Nanny's journal, Meghan stood frozen at the door for a moment. Her expression unreadable. Kate stood beside Charlotte, gently holding her hand. The other bridesmaids, Florence Van Cutsum, Ivy Mulroney, were chatting softly. The room had a delicate energy, fragile. And then Meghan broke the silence. What are you doing to her dress? She asked, voice sharp. Elise looked up, startled. Her Royal Highness asked me to. But that's as far as she got. The movement was sudden. Elise didn't even register it until after the slap landed. A gasp followed. Charlotte started to cry. Ivy looked terrified. And Kate? She went still. She didn't shout. She didn't argue, the nanny wrote. But I've never seen someone look more furious without saying a word. Meghan, breathing heavily, allegedly repeated her phrase, "Don't touch my vision. Ever." Then she turned and left. Now here's where things get murky. Official palace records say nothing about the incident. Staff were instructed, allegedly, to remain silent. Elise was reportedly transferred back to Givenchy's Paris office within days. No complaint was filed. No investigation launched. But those who were there, they remember. A stylist who was present but chose not to intervene said, "It felt like a war zone." That room turned ice cold. The next 48 hours inside the palace were full of whispers. Meghan remained distant. Kate, according to insiders, debated pulling Charlotte from the wedding altogether. It was Prince William who reportedly convinced her to proceed, for the sake of unity. But there was no unity. Not anymore. And as we now know, that slap, hidden away behind security and staff silence, never truly disappeared. It lived in memory, in whispers, and in one very important place, on video. But here's the real question. What happened when Meghan realized what she'd done? Did guilt settle in? Was there remorse? Or did her team go into damage control immediately? Because according to a confidential staff report, one that was never meant to see daylight, the moment Meghan left that fitting room, she made a call. Not to Harry, not to Kate, but to her communications advisor. Why? Because she knew what cameras were in the room, and she suspected someone might have seen. But what she didn't know was that someone had recorded. And that person wasn't just anyone. It was the royal nanny, the woman tasked with looking after the little ones, especially Charlotte. She had tucked her phone behind a stack of fitting notes and fabrics, hoping to catch a sweet moment of Charlotte trying on her dress.